So happy New Year, everyone. January's theme is New Year, New You. And it's always been one of my favorite themes in Rise World and Rise programming. I am born in January, and so I think I have a little bit of affinity, but also, and it's like an underrated month. It's cold, it's the first one, it's post holidays. So maybe I'm a little bit of a January cheerleader. But although I'm not much of a resolutions person, I am all in on this new year, new you. I always wake up on January 1st, ready to not say, what do I want to do differently, but how am I going to show up? There's this renewed energy and excitement. And so that's what New Year, New You is all about. And as we were planning our programming to kick off 2021, I couldn't think of anyone better than Heather Crider to help kick us off. Heather is an incredible mix of, she's got this science that she brings in here. She brings this neuroscience. She's like this incredible motivate. Talk about being a cheerleader, inspirational. And so we've got this really cool mix, or she has a really cool mix for you guys. It's going to be interactive and impactful. And without further ado, I'm going to kick things off with Heather Crider.
Thank you so much, Kate. It's so great to be here with everybody today. And I love the idea of post 2020. So we are one into 2020. And, I look at 2020 and to be honest, I'm tired of people talking about all the negativity that's happened in 2020. And it's okay. We all have had our struggles. There's no question about that. But part of what we're going to talk about today is what good came from that and how to be able to reframe your mindset in any situation and environment. So just want to thank you for being here. Just going to kind of look around. We've got Donna, Kristen, good to see you. Amy, let's see, Adrian, good morning. Lauren, just trying to look at everybody. Vicky, Amanda, thank you so much for everybody for being here. I'd like to invite you just quickly, just take 5-10 seconds, take a deep breath. And I'd like for you to think about how you're arriving today. And once you've thought about that, just go ahead and pop that in the chat. Maybe it's 2 words. Maybe you're arriving peaceful and excited. Maybe you're feeling rushed. It doesn't matter. There's no right or wrong. Just really lean into what you're feeling. Kristen says calm and clear. Happy New Year to you as well, Adrian. Jen says overcommitted. Amy is renewed. Adrian is hopeful. Lauren is refocused. Vicky is peaceful and hopeful. Julie is excited and anxious. Let's see, we've got energized and nervous, refresh. Emily's optimistic. As we're just kind of look around, a little frazzled but motivated, can you relate, just kind of thinking and seeing how everyone is arriving? You can kind of relate to how everybody's coming in. Ready to go, happy to see friends. Absolutely. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Technology is always a fun thing. Oops. There we go.
Heather, this is Kristen Bond. I'm not being non-participatory, if that's a word. I just might have made that up. I don't have the chat feature because my company doesn't let me. So,
Aw, well, that's okay.
But I second all of those words that were included. So just letting you know.
Thank you. Thank you for speaking out. I appreciate that. A couple little Zoom tips to help make this experience more interactive and more present for you. I'd like to invite you on the top. My screen looks different than yours, so forgive me. I'm trying to remember. On the right, you have an ability to pick how you see your screen. What I would suggest is pick speaker view, which means you get to see me. And then there's a little bar that you can actually slide over between slides and speaker. Feel free to make it primarily slides or speaker. We are going to have interactive time. We are also going to have breakout rooms. So a couple things, if you know you cannot participate in breakout rooms, just go ahead and send Kate a quick message. And that way, when she's going to be our Zoom master today, and that way, when we go to breakout rooms, she'll know not to put you in one with someone. And then when we do have interactive moments, when we have chat features or when we come in to speak, you can change your view back to participant view. So just a suggestion to make it a little bit more present for you. And then also, we're at the beginning of a new year, an incredible opportunity for a new year and a fresh start, right? I think we all want a fresh start. But and I'm so grateful that you all decided to show up today, probably your first day back from a holiday break. There's a lot going on and a lot going on that you need to get to, but you decided to show up for this session. So I would like to challenge you to just really be present in this time right now with each other. Put your cell phone away or on do not disturb. Maybe just have one screen open. And I'm the taskmaster, so I know exactly how it is to have 20 screens open and do a million things at once. But you're going to get so much more out of this time if you really just lean in and participate fully. Feel free to take notes of whatever comes up for you as we continue through our time together. So just some quick housekeeping here. Now, I grew up in the 80s, and sitcoms were a normal part of my life. And quite frankly, I think if it weren't sitcoms, I probably wouldn't learn anything about life. But for me, that's really where I spent a lot of my time, being a child of the 80s. So I'd like to ask you if there was a particular sitcom or maybe even a movie that was influential for you. Just think about it for a moment and just jot that down in the chat really quick. If there was a particular sitcom that had influence for you for any particular reason. And The Brady Bunch, Full House, Facts of Life, Friends, absolutely. Gilmore Girls, yep. Seinfeld. Isn't it funny when we think back at these shows, really how they did impact us? So for me, one of the shows that had a huge impact to me was the show Family Ties. And the reason is because I love Michael J. Fox, but his character that he played, Alex P. Keaton, he was my hero. And growing up, the reason he was my hero is because he had this zest for life. He had this drive as a teenager, his character was, where he was going to impact, change the world, be able to take his values, the things he believed in, and apply them in everything he did. So when I was 10, when some kids were asking for Barbie dolls or Cabbage Patch dolls for Christmas, I was asking for a briefcase because I wanted to be like Alex P. Keaton, and I wanted to go and change the world and experience success beyond measure. And I didn't really know what that was like or what that looked like, but that was the view I had. I couldn't wait to get in the world, start my life, and to be able to have these experiences and impact to change the world. So that's what I tried to do. I went, put myself through college. I was the first in my family to do so. And I started my corporate world. and I could not wait. I knew I was going to be the first female CEO in a year or two, and I was just going to make this huge impact and be able to change the world, and it was going to be great and perfect. And I had some hard dose of reality hit me. What I learned was all the things I was actually striving for weren't exactly how it was. And I had some lessons that I had to go through. So, what I actually encountered, the more that I went to strive for success, the more stress I actually encountered. The more that I wanted to achieve in all of those areas of my life, not just with my corporate career, but the more anxiety I actually felt. And then the more determined I was to be able to accomplish these things, change the world, be able to be this stellar person in my career, the more depressed I actually got. Now, you don't have to have the same experience that I have, but just you can raise your hand, you can type yes in the chat if you've ever experienced stress on a level that it was just so overwhelming and confusing. Raise your hand or just say yes in the chat. Yeah, absolutely. I think we all can identify with experience some sort of stress. And what I call it, I experienced SAD in a SAD way. And I know I wasn't alone, but statistics also show me I wasn't alone. According to Gallup in 2018, 2/3 of full-time workers actually experience burnout on the job. Now, that's a huge, huge effect. And what that leads is to so many implications of the effect of stress and burnout. People are more likely to take sick days. They're way more active in seeking other jobs. They're less confident. They have less psychological safety with their coworkers and their direct supervisors and managers. They go to the emergency room more. It's so many things that attribute. And the way I look at it is we are facing a pandemic of stress and burnout. And I absolutely want to make sure that I am not taking anything away from the year that we just experienced. We have experienced extraordinary times. There's no question about that. 2020 was, as we talked about earlier, and Kate and Amy had this beautiful way of putting it. This is kind of like the reset in life. We're always going to measure what was 2020 like. However, stress is all around us, and it has been for a really long time. Stress and burnout is not a new thing. And when I go back and I look at the path that I had and the things that I went through, I actually left my corporate life. I experienced such tremendous stress and the SAD that I 17 years ago actually started my first corporation. And what I realized is all the things that I thought it would be like on the other side of the fence, I just kind of traded one stress for another. And when we think about who else is affected by stress, the statistics I showed you were really related to Gallup and looking at corporate employees. However, those numbers relate to everyone. It does not matter what position we're in. Leaders, business owners, entrepreneurs, managers, it does not matter. Everyone experiences, I can't even talk today, this on some level. And that's what I really learned as well. Like I said, I left my corporate world and I started my own business. So I had that renewed hope to be able to come in and change the world. I had certainly more opportunity being an independent business owner, but what I learned is the different type of stress, it just kind of was disguised in a different way because it was different ways of seeing things and different things that I had to learn. Stress affects 86% of chronic disease actually comes from stress. $300 billion plus in business loss due to chronic disease and stress. People end up feeling disconnected, uncertain, stuck, unfocused, unmotivated, frustrated, which then leads, I went too fast. It leads to unfulfillment, not following your dreams, lack of goals, lack of listening to intuition, and then leading to that SAD, sad. So the things that I had when I was younger in my career, I had it all. I had what I called this white picket fence life. I had the 2.5 kids, the white picket fence, the golden retriever, the perfect life. I had the success with money. I even built a multi-million dollar company, but I was still miserable. I read every single personal development book that you can imagine. And people taught me how to go and find your why. Your why, how many people have heard that? Just raise your hands. You heard find your why, and then all your dreams will come true. Now, there's great truth in that, certainly great truth. However, I learned for myself, my kids are my most important why. Absolutely. I have 2 kids. I'm so grateful for my 2 kids. And I'm also incredibly grateful I only have 2 kids, especially with e-learning in 2020. However, no matter how hard I worked for my why, which are my children, I still was left unfulfilled. For years, did not follow my dreams because I was so worried about fulfilling my why that I wasn't fulfilling who I really was. And that's really what it's all about. Kind of fast forward of the things that I went through on purpose, I had to go and I had to find out what was important to me because I kept ending up in that SAD sad. I was constantly on that edge of burnout. So I say, forget your why. It's time to focus on your who. And what that means is who you are, who you want to become, who you've been are all way more important to be able to achieve not only your goals, but truly success, happiness, fulfillment, and well-being. That's what's most important. The why will get you motivated, but the who will keep you inspired to be able to take the action you need. Just raise of hands or clap or give me a thumbs up if that makes sense to you so far. Absolutely. So what that means is in order to connect, you must reflect. It sounds really great, just like find your why. That sounds super easy. Just find it and okay, now what? Just like find your who. Okay, this is who I want to become. Sounds super easy, but it's not. So one of the things I had to learn, and it took me years. I had a mentor 15 years ago that said every year you need to go on at least 3 silent retreats and you need to spend time reflecting on yourself. And it took me 10 years after he told me that for me to finally do it because I was scared. I was scared of who I would discover. I was scared of being able to do that hard work and reflecting. And I was really, really nervous of what would that look like to be alone, to really unwrap some of these onions and these layers. But I had to. I started searching neuroscience. And the reason I started searching neuroscience was because I needed to understand that for me to be able to truly connect and reflect on who I was going to be, who I wanted to be, that person, that Alex P. Keaton person that had this desire and love to change the world and to connect with the things that were important. I needed to understand who I really was, who I wanted to be. And the only way to do that was for me to understand how my own brain worked. The stress and the anxiety and all of the things that I was feeling was because of what I was thinking. And no matter how much personal development I did, I still had to learn how to change my own thought patterns. The only way I knew how to do that was to understand and unwrap neuroscience to really be able to figure out how that brain works. Now, I'm not saying you have to understand neuroscience, but what I am saying is for you to be able to truly reflect on who you want to become, first, you've got to connect with who you are now. And sometimes that's really hard work. So the question still becomes is how do we do this? How do we continue to develop, to discover, and to become that person that we're meant to be? And one of the ways, there's many ways, but it really comes down to that foundation of searching inside yourself. Now, in full disclosure, Search Inside Yourself is actually a program, and it's beautifully named. I've talked about it for years of that part of reflection, that part of really being able to unwrap and uncover starts from searching inside yourself. But the secret formula that's not quite so secret is foundational in mindfulness, understanding a little bit of neuroscience, and understanding the foundations of emotional intelligence. Those are the key formula to be able to search inside yourself. Now, like I said, it's actually a program. Google started this program in the early 2000s so that way they could teach their leaders how to still be functioning, well-being human beings so they could have well-being so they did not experience stress and burnout. So they actually developed this program with leading mindfulness and neuroscience experts. And ironically, when I found out about the program, it's all the things I've been studying for years just for myself and my clients. So I've kind of married these two things together and to be able to share this with the world. So I'm going to share with you today just a few slivers of what these foundation pieces are so that way you can help be able to set some things in place to search inside yourself so that way you can then achieve the success, the goals, and the dreams that you have. Sound good? Give me a thumbs up if we're all good so far. So what I'm going to invite you to do with me now is, and this is so funny because Kate and I were talking before everybody got on, I was mentioning that in my house, one of the warmest rooms in my house is in my my closet, my bedroom closet. The sun comes in. So throughout several times in the day, I'll actually go in there and act like a cat to find the sun. But what I am going to suggest to you is throughout the day, your brain gets activated. You don't know it. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you can just feel that stress and anxiety. But these habits get formed. So the reason we're looking at a cat stretching is there's a ton of neuroscience research on the positive effects of yawning and stretching. When you yawn and stretch, it actually brings oxygen, it brings blood flow to your brain. It helps to be able to reduce some of the good stress, increase some of the hormones to be able to calm and increase and boost some of your endorphins. The reason I'm suggesting it right now is because it actually also calms your nervous system and allows you to be able to fully start learning how to tap into your intuition. So what I'm going to invite you to do with me, if you can, stand up where you are, and I'm going to show you the right way to yawn and stretch. You probably thought you knew how to yawn and stretch, and it's okay. It may look silly, but I'm going to demonstrate it for you. So it's totally okay. Now, what you do, if you just want to stand up, and you can turn sideways if you're more comfortable, if you feel that you don't want to look directly into the camera, and that's okay. And you can turn your camera off too, if that's more comfortable for you. But you can force a yawn. You can always force a yawn, especially if you see somebody else doing it. So what you do is just I see it's easy to force that yawn. Just take and just start, force that yawn. And what you want to do, think about that cat and think about how super slowly they stretch. And then just as slow, like you're in quicksand, and try to force 2 or 3 yawns. You can make noise. You can feel into your body. Maybe you need to lean sideways. Maybe you need to go do a toe stretch. But the slower you can learn to do that while you're yawning, the more oxygen you're actually getting and releasing to release some good endorphins and serotonin to your brain. Those are the good chemicals. And whenever you like, you can sit back down. Thank you for participating. I really appreciate that. Okay, so now that we're nice and relaxed, we've got a little bit of blood flow and oxygen to our brains. Wasn't too weird, right? Now, I will warn you, if you're in an important meeting or you're with a client, yawning and stretching typically looks very inappropriate. So I'll show you in a little bit some other stealth things that you can do that might help. But what I'm going to, Kate says it felt amazing. I love it. Thank you. I can feel the blood flowing again. Awesome. That's fantastic. And the idea behind yawning and stretching really is at least once an hour. And I'll talk about that in just a moment. So what I'm going to invite you to do in just a moment, what we just went through was technically a mindfulness moment. It may not have felt like a mindful moment, but you were super focused on that yawning and stretching. You probably weren't thinking about a lot of other things. Maybe you thought, do I look silly? Maybe you thought, am I embarrassed? And that's okay, but it's really a mindful moment. So search inside yourself and really just start discovering who you're meant to be. These are the foundation pieces: mindfulness, really understanding self-awareness, what you do and how do you manage what you're aware of, managing your emotions, what gets you motivated, what type of empathy, and then how to put all these pieces together in a leadership way. I can't talk about all of these things today, but I do want to impress upon you the importance of all of these things, and I'll continue to give you a few of these today. So what I'm actually going to invite you to do with me now is what I call a mindful listening exercise. So what we're going to do is our lovely Zoom operator, Kate, is going to put us in breakout rooms in just a moment. We're going to be in a breakout room into pairs. And so again, if for some reason you cannot participate, go ahead and send Kate a quick message so she knows not to put you in the breakout room. It is suggested, to make it a better experience, to have your camera and your microphone on, obviously, because this is going to be an interactive breakout session. And what we are going to do in the pairs, we're going to have a person A and a person B. Person A, I'm going to give you a prompt in just a moment before we go out to the breakout rooms. And throughout the time you're in your breakout room, Kate's going to give you prompts throughout the breakout room as well. Person A is going to speak first. Person B, your job while person A is speaking is just to mindfully listen. Now, what does that look like? It looks like you listening. You can nod your head. You can do a ooh or a ah or a but try not to interrupt. It's sometimes super hard. Try not to interject. Your job is purely just to mindfully listen. You don't have to give them the death stare. You can have some expression and interaction, but just mindfully listen. Now, person A, while you're answering your prompt, just whatever comes up for you, just answer. You are going to have 2 minutes for each person. Now, person A, when you get done, if you feel that you're done and you have more time, then both of you just sit in silence. And maybe person A, there's other things that you might think of that you want to say. But that full 2 minutes is for person A while person B mindfully listens, and then vice versa. Then person B will go, person A will mindfully listen. Now, I will ask you, kind of like Vegas, what is done in Vegas stays in Vegas. Kind of follow that here. This is a safe space. So whatever is shared during that breakout room, if everyone can just agree that whatever comes up stays in that breakout room. That way we all feel comfortable with whatever does come up in sharing. And clearly only share what you're comfortable with. Are there any questions before I give you what the prompts are? No? Okay, perfect. So person A, you're going to speak your prompt. What has been your biggest takeaway so far today? Or what is currently your biggest challenge? That's your prompt. Now, person A will be the person with the shortest hair. That will be the person that goes first. So that would be the easiest way for you two to decide. And then Kate, are we good with, do we have pairs? Okay. So whenever you're ready, Kate, to zoom us off to the magic Zoom rooms, feel free to whisk away. How was this for you? If you'd like to comment, just raise your hand and we'll just pick a few people here. Adrian, go ahead.
Hi. Well, I have to say it was really good, but I wanted to talk so bad. I kept telling Erin, oh my God, I just want to give you, I don't know about advice, but I wanted to just share something with her. But so it was good listening though. It was really good to listen. It was just hard not to talk, put it that way, just to listen and not to talk.
Yeah. Did anybody else have that same experience of feeling it difficult? Yeah.
I found that I wanted to ask like a question that I thought would continue the conversation a little bit, but and like allow me to find out more info. But I sat on my hands and didn't talk, and it was fine.
Was it hard not to?
I mean, not really. I think in my head, I was like, oh, I really want to ask her this question and find out the answer to it. But then that moment passed and I continued to listen. So it wasn't that bad.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Anyone else like to share their experience? Vicky, go ahead.
I was just wondering, is this something we should be doing more often in life? Like, because it was hard. And I actually felt like I was being rude. Even though I kept nodding, I thought, she's going to feel weird that I'm not saying anything. But then I thought about it and I'm like, maybe this is how we always should be listening to people with like this major focus. Is that, I mean, maybe not for extended minutes, that could get awkward, but do you think that's good life advice?
What do you think?
Probably, you know, especially because at one point she said, well, I don't know if I have anything else to share. But then she said, well, and then she kept going and it was really good stuff. And I thought, well, maybe if I'd interrupted her, she wouldn't have gotten to that.
Yeah, that's usually what happens. And that's 9 times out of 10, that's the comment that people give when they have space and they're given that time. More things come up and people feel more comfortable sharing. Yeah. Did anyone, so you noticed that you wanted to interject. Did anyone think about what they were going to say next or get caught in your own thoughts?
I got totally caught in my own thoughts, right? Like it was kind of like meditation. I had to keep being like, okay, no, this isn't about me. I'm listening because I could relate to so much of what she was saying, right? That I kind of started to get into my own head. And so I kind of had to keep bringing myself, back to just looking at her and listening, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Thank you for sharing that, Julie. Yeah. Well, I would, I, we could spend a whole hour on this one particular exercise. And thank you so much for participating. I wanted to give you a tiny little taste of what it's like. And Vicky, I feel compelled to tell you this story. So I did this exercise actually in a live meeting a couple months ago. It was my first live meeting in months, and it was so exciting to do. And it was primarily men. And one of the men, which is fine, but one of the men during the exercise, he commented, he said, "My wife is always telling me that I should listen more. And I'm on my phone, but I'm listening. I can hear everything as she's saying, but she tells me that I'm not listening, even though I'm on my phone." And so I asked him, I said, "Are you listening?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Why do you think she doesn't feel like you're listening?" And he he didn't get it. And I'm not disparaging him by any means, but it was the quality of attention. And no matter how much he thinks he was listening, he was not interacting. So if you think about, if you're in the shoes of the speaker, when somebody's doing that, when they are distracted and doing other things, how does it feel to be received when somebody else is doing other things, and vice versa? So there's a lot of layers here. There's a lot of layers of why this is important, but this is just a tiny little sliver of the importance of awareness and the impact mindfully listening can be. I've heard a lot of people, especially talk about their relationships with their significant others, how that is impacted in a positive way just by giving a little bit more quality of attention. So thank you for participating in that. Can everybody still see my slides? I want to make sure, are they still good? Okay, perfect. Thank you. So that's really one of the huge foundation pieces to searching inside yourself. It's a combination of mindfulness, self-awareness, and the awareness of everything around you, as well as then how do you take that to the next layer and manage that. Motivation is a very, very deep topic, but the importance, the reason I said earlier, in order to connect, you must reflect. It's not just about us. It's not just about uncovering who we're supposed to be. It's uncovering who we are when we are interacting with others as well, how we're showing up, who we're demonstrating we are. So all of these skills aren't just how do we think better, it's how do we act clearer, how do we understand what is going on in our own mind and the interpretation that's happening in other people as well. So that's really leadership. That's the instrumental definition of leadership, is being able to influence another based upon that interaction. And it's very inspiring when you can be able to interact with somebody and get them motivated as well. So I'm talking about a lot of layers here, but the important piece is self-awareness first. The only way you can have self-awareness is just by mindfulness. And that tiny little sliver of an exercise is a great way to demonstrate the importance. Now, from a super quick neuroscience perspective, there has been an explosion of neuroscience research and the effectiveness of mindfulness and meditation. Now, I used to think that to achieve mindfulness or meditation, you had to be a bald white guy sitting on top of a mountain meditating for 5 straight hours. That's what I thought mindfulness and meditation was. But that's not what it is. You can have mindful moments just like you had a moment ago in that paired interaction. So the reason I'm showing you this is the neuroscience research. This is actually a statistic from PubMed, which is a research search site showing all of the research. And you can see the explosion. It's still very new, neuroscience is, but there's been an explosion of neuroscience over the past 10 years, and it's growing every day. And the joke in the neuroscience world is what we know today is going to be wrong tomorrow, just because of how quickly it's becoming more prominent. But the exciting piece is we have the power to change our brains. And that's what I'm showing you here. There's a concept called neuroplasticity, and I won't get into the huge nitty gritty of that, but effectively the short version is, when I talked earlier about the success path I had, the reason I kept going back to being unfulfilled, I left a corporate job, I left a marriage, I've left businesses. I was a victim for a really long time. I blamed my circumstances. I blamed significant emotional experiences I had on my unhappiness, on my lack of joy. I had to take ownership of the way I thought. Now, I'm not taking away from the experiences I had, because to be honest, I've had a lot of really crappy life experiences. But I had to take ownership and understand the same files in my brain. Einstein has a great quote of being able to solve a problem with the same thinking that created it. It's impossible. I had to learn how to retrain the files in my mental filing cabinet. And that's what's so exciting about neuroscience, is we have the ability to do that. We can retrain, rewire circuits in our brain, and being able to think so we can act differently, so we can behave differently and feel differently. Therefore, we will get different results. That's the exciting part about neuroscience. Yeah, and Vicky says, I love that quote. I just used it the other day too. It's so profound and it really fits. And mindfulness is something that can be done in 30 seconds. And there's neuroscience that shows the effectiveness. A lot of people feel like if you don't sit in meditation for 30 minutes, you're not going to be able to achieve these results. There's huge, huge studies on how peaceful and calm monks are because of the longevity that they've had in meditation. But the good news is, for normal people like us that don't have that type of time, 30 seconds, 2 minutes, 3-minute things can actually help have the same type of results. Now, again, mindfulness, emotional intelligence, and neuroscience are some of the key foundation pieces to being able to search inside yourself. Mindfulness just simply means being aware. That's it. Being aware of your thoughts, of your action, being aware of the present moment. It's really that simple. And Julie said that a moment ago, of when you're in that conversation, you kind of see your thoughts drift away and you're not as connected in that conversation because you're thinking, and then you have to kind of circle them back around. That is a really big trick to being able to actually retrain those neural pathways. Now, we don't have time right now. Kate is going to put in the chat for us a link to a video. I think it's really important. Dan Harris, I don't know if anybody knows him. He was a news anchor, one of my favorite people. He had a panic attack live on air. This has been quite some time ago. Years ago, he had a panic attack live on air. He had never suffered from panic attacks. He didn't know what that was. So he had to learn what's going on. Why is this happening? So long story short, he had to develop and understand the importance of meditation and mindfulness. He had to figure out that he had to retrain his brain so he would no longer have these panic attacks on air. So he's become a huge advocate of what I call everyday mindfulness and meditation. And the link to the video that Kate put in the chat for you is a cute little video that he created to kind of show how everyday mindfulness can be used and how mindfulness and meditation is going to be the new jogging. And what that means is it is going to become part of our everyday vernacular, where it's just going to be a way of life. And we're getting there. It's been a huge movement, and we're really understanding more and more about it. And that's a huge benefit. So I just wanted to share that with you, that little video. So the whole point to the mind, to be able, if we fast forward to needing to achieve our goals, needing to have the success, needing to become the person who we're meant to be, then we have to be able to have this calm and clarity in our mind. If we think about a snow globe, and we just went through the holidays, so I'm sure there are snow globes around you. Think about when you've got that snow globe at its full activation, you can't really see the image very clearly inside of it. But as that snow starts to settle, that's when you can see the crystal clear image in it. And if you think about mindfulness, that's really what it's doing. So the whole point is to have calm, clarity, happiness, and well-being, so that way you can start to achieve the results that you want to achieve. But it all starts with how you think. Now, super quick, this is what I call a micro practice. I gave you the yawning and stretching earlier. It's not always appropriate to yawn and stretch. The more that you yawn and stretch, the better. However, this is a nice little stealth ninja practice that you can do to help create some of that calm around you. It's called a 3 breaths practice. And one of the simple ways to do it is just simply just take a breath. On the first breath, just pay attention. Just tell yourself, I'm paying attention to my breath. Then on the second breath, just relax the body. Usually it's your shoulders when we're stressed. We usually hold everything in our shoulders and our neck. You just come in, relax the body. Now, the third thing, you can say, what's important in this moment right now? If you're in a conversation, if you're in a heated conversation, maybe that's the tiny little thing to ask so you can have clarity of what's most important right now. Maybe it's, I need food because I am hangry. Maybe it's, I need to take a walk. There's a million things it could be. Maybe it's, what is my innermost, deepest value at this moment? But it's a nice little stealth way to be able, again, to bring some of that oxygen and blood flow to your brain. And often when you do the 3 breaths practice, you'll also start yawning. So just something to think about. Are there any questions up to this point? I want to be super aware of your time today. So before I move on, are there any questions? No, that's okay. So visioning is a huge part of also being able, I see some discussion on NLP. And what's interesting is NLP is basically a different way to program to think in the words you say. One way to be able to do that is through visioning. Our brain cannot distinguish between past, present, or future. So we get stuck in past thoughts. So like I said earlier, the files that we have in our brain, if we're constantly going over those same filing cabinets over and over and over and over, we're just reliving old memories. So often when people get stuck in fear, it's because of these old thought patterns. So if we think about our futures, if we think about different ways of thinking, different ways of being, different, and when I say reflection and we look at this, it doesn't mean everything is wrong about you. It just means take the really good pieces and make them better and quit focusing on the things that no longer serve you. I want to make that distinguish very, very clear. And that's what I thought. I thought reflection means I was going to find all the parts of me I didn't like. And that's not true. There's always going to be parts to grow on. but it's also really adding to those strengths that we already have. So I just want to show you this. I have a podcast called Go Reflect Yourself. And this particular episode is with a woman. She has rowed in a rowboat solo across 3 major bodies of water. She is the epitome of visioning your future and how being able to take solitude and reflection at its purest and to be able to create your goals. So I just want to invite you to watch that episode. I have a recording where she and I talk live, plus it's in the podcast. So I just want to extend that to you to help. And then I'm going to fast forward here. I am going to also invite you to just practice. Practice every little thing that you can. If there is this mindful exercise that you can do, just try it today. Try the yawn and stretching. Try the little stealth micro practices. The more practice, the more you're actually retraining your brain. I will invite you also. I'm a certified neurocoach, which means to kind of help get through all obstacles. And I'm happy to offer a complimentary neurocoaching session. But what's super exciting is we just released a 2021 self-reflection workbook. It's a guided workbook to be able to have these fundamentals and these principles that we talked about today in a very easy format to go through some of the self-reflection needed to be able to achieve your goals. And it includes a lot of heavy goal setting as well. So it's not just reflection, it's reflection into action, because without action, nothing happens. So if you want, we're selling this for $37. If you want a complimentary copy, I'm happy to give it to you. Just go to heatherjcrider.com/workbook, or just send me an email and I'm happy to give that to you. So I want to end promptly on time because I know everybody is super excited to be able to get on with post 2020 year one and to be able to have the success, wealth, happiness, and well-being. And I want to leave you with the final thought is just remember, in order to connect, you must reflect. And to be able to have the life, the dreams, the goals, the success you want, you have to discover and reflect on who you are is extraordinary. So continue being more of that. So thank you so much for participating and being here. And thank you, Kate, for having me today.
Oh, thank you, Heather. This was awesome. I'm feeling motivated and clear and inspired and all the things. This was an awesome way to start 2021, and especially being with all of you guys here today. Thank you for being with us. And I look forward to seeing everybody online again soon. Everyone take care. Thanks, Heather.
Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you so much, Heather. It's fantastic.
Absolutely. Good to see everybody today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.